I stand frozen in the hallway, one hand pressed against the wall for support, the other clutching my wedding magazine so tightly the pages crinkle. The dining room door is cracked open just enough for their voices to slip through. I wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. My marketing meeting ended early, and I thought I'd surprise them. Instead, they surprise me. She'll pay for everything, just like she did for my wedding. Violet's distinctive laugh too loud. Two sharp cuts through the air. That's what little sisters are for. My parents chuckle in agreement, the sound of their betrayal making my stomach clench. We've already told everyone about the combined celebration, Mom says, the pride evident in her voice. Dad clears his throat. Your anniversary deserves as much attention as her wedding. 5 years is a milestone. My wedding magazine slips from my fingers, landing silently on the carpeted floor. I don't move to pick it up. I can't move at all. The blood rushes to my face as my breathing turns shallow. White-knuckled, I grip my handbag to keep my hand from trembling. 5 years of therapy, teaching me to recognize my worth, evaporates in an instant. I'm 10 years old again, watching Violet open my birthday presents while everyone applauds her for being such a good sharer. I back away from the door, careful not to make a sound. My legs carry me outside to my car where I sink into the driver's seat and stare at nothing. The keys dangle from my fingers, but I don't put them in the ignition. Not yet. First, I need to call Robert. My finger hovers over his name in my contacts. 3 deep breaths later, I press call. Hey, beautiful, he answers on the second ring. How was the meeting? They're trying to do it again, Rob. My voice comes out steadier than I expect. But this time, I won't let them. 5 years ago, Violet announced her engagement to Thomas. 2 weeks later, Dad called me into his study, explaining that Thomas had lost his job and they needed help with wedding expenses. Just temporary, he promised. Family comes first, Naomi, he said, his hand heavy on my shoulder. Your sister needs this. Mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed. If you really loved your sister. I handed over my entire savings account. $15,000. My education fund. My future. It's just a semester, Mom said when I had to drop out of college. You can always go back. 3 semesters later, I was still working 2 jobs, watching my dreams collect dust while Violet danced at her reception in a dress that cost more than my car. That night, I made myself a promise while Sisters by Rosemary Clooney played over the speakers. Never again. 2 weeks later, Mom invites us for dinner. Just a casual family gathering, she says, but I know better. Her voice has that rehearsed quality it gets when she's planning something. The table is set with the good china, never a good sign. Violet and Thomas arrive 15 minutes late, as usual. Before we eat, Mom announces once we're all seated. We have the most brilliant idea. I feel Robert's hand find mine under the table, as Mom launches into a speech about beautiful symbolism and shared celebrations. We thought, she continues, beaming, that we could combine Naomi's wedding with Violet and Thomas's 5th anniversary celebration. Violet pulls out a folder color-coded and tabbed and places it on the table. I've already made a list. Separate cake, of course. Special dance. And I think the colors should match my original wedding. For continuity. Robert's fingers tighten around mine as I feel all eyes turn to me. They're waiting for my usual immediate agreement. My automatic yes that's been conditioned into me since childhood. Let me think about it, I say instead. The silence that follows is deafening. Mom's smile freezes. Dad blinks rapidly. Violet's mouth opens slightly, then closes. Think about it? Dad recovers first, patting my shoulder dismissively. Always practical. That's why we know you'll handle the finances. Violet's eyes fill with practiced tears. I thought you'd be excited. Mom gives me a look, the one that says keep the peace before passing the potatoes. Naomi will come around. She always does. I smile and nod. The perfect daughter. Robert squeezes my hand under the table, a silent show of support. I'm sure it will be beautiful, I say, the words tasting like ash. But in my mind, a plan is already forming. A single thought burning bright enough to warm the ice forming around my heart. Never again. Have you ever smiled and nodded while silently planning your escape? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That night, I said I would sleep over to take some things left and to check what other plans my family is hiding from me. The family computer screen glows in the dim light of Dad's study as I scroll through Mom's email. I shouldn't be here, shouldn't be doing this. But Robert's words echo in my head. Trust your instincts, Naomi. Something doesn't add up. My breath catches when I see it, An email chain between Mom and Violet with the subject line "Vendor Payments, Naomi." I click, heart hammering against my ribs. "Don't worry about the deposits," Mom wrote. "James and I have assured everyone that Naomi will cover all expenses once contracts are finalized." My fingers tremble on the mouse. I click through more emails, each one another nail in the coffin of my trust. Screenshots of venue options, catering menus, DJ packages. All with notes about how the bride will be handling payment. A notification pings on Mom's tablet still logged into her Amazon account. I tap it without thinking and freeze. There, in high-definition color, is a wedding dress. Not my dress, a second dress, ordered 3 days ago. The confirmation email shows my credit card number. "I need your bathroom." I text Robert, our code for urgent calls. He answers immediately. "What happened?" "They've been planning this for months." My voice sounds hollow even to myself. "Violet used my credit card to buy another wedding dress, one that matches her vision." 4. "That's credit card fraud," Robert says, his usually calm voice tight with anger. "There's more." I switch to speaker and open the banking app on my phone. Remember those deposits I couldn't account for last month? They weren't deposits. They were withdrawals labeled as deposits, for wedding expenses. "My parents got a call last week," Robert says after a pause. "Someone claiming to be your wedding coordinator said you wanted a simple ceremony and didn't need their contribution." The pieces click together with sickening clarity. I minimize the email and notice an Excel file on the desktop labeled W+A Budget Final. I shouldn't open it, but I do anyway. The spreadsheet appears, meticulously organized with color-coded tabs. I click through them, my stomach dropping further with each page. Venue, $22,000. Catering, $15,000. Entertainment, $8,000. Flowers, $7,000. Photography, $6,000. Dresses, plural, $5,000. At the bottom, a final sum, $63,000. With a note in Violet's distinctive purple font, "Naomi's responsibility." I lean back in Dad's chair, suddenly dizzy. The family photo on his desk, Mom, Dad, Violet, and me at her wedding, seems to mock me now. I was smiling in that picture, having just signed away my education fund. While searching for more evidence, I find Mom's journal tucked in the desk drawer. I've never invaded her privacy like this before, but I'm past caring. I flip to recent entries. "Naomi's always been the responsible one," she wrote just last week. "She'll understand this is for family." So, the same day Dad claimed financial hardship, a receipt from Pine Hills Golf Club shows his $5,000 membership renewal. I take screenshots and forward all messages to my chat. Tomorrow I will start dealing with them thoroughly. My phone buzzes in the morning while I am at office. A text from Jessica, my oldest friend who works at an event planning company. "Call me as soon as possible. Violet just contacted us claiming to be handling arrangements for your wedding." I forward her the spreadsheet before calling. Her outrage validates what I already know: this isn't normal family behavior. "They're gaslighting you," she says bluntly. "This is financial abuse." Later that evening, Robert's sister Emily visits our apartment. Unlike me, she successfully escaped her own controlling family years ago. "The problem isn't just Violet," Emily explains as we sit at our kitchen table. "Your mother enables everything. Notice the pattern: Violet creates the crisis. Your mother offers the solution that requires your sacrifice." Mrs. Sullivan, my elderly neighbor who sometimes joins us for coffee, nods in agreement. She came 10 minutes after Emily. "I've watched this dynamic for years, dear. Your sister takes, your mother facilitates, your father enforces, and you accommodate," she says. "Not anymore," I say, but my voice wavers. The threats begin the next day. Violet calls about a networking event at her company. "Remember how I helped you get that marketing position?" Her voice drips with sweetness. "Family connections are so important. Speaking of which, have you chosen a venue yet?" Dad mentions the house down payment they might help with if the wedding goes smoothly. Mom casually references Grandma's heart attack while discussing wedding stress. "You know, cardiac issues run in our family." She sighs. "I've already told the aunts about our combined celebration. They're thrilled." That night, I make my first strategic move. I'll need to be the one to sign the venue contract. I tell them over dinner, my voice steadier than I feel. Their exchange of glances speaks volumes. At my apartment, I cancel the fraudulent dress order and change all my financial passwords. The victory feels hollow when Violet calls immediately. "You're being ridiculous," she snaps. "You've gained weight anyway. That dress would have looked better on me." I endure the barbs, the manipulative texts, the constant pressure, the price of playing along while I formulate my plan. Later, alone in our bathroom, I finally break. Tears stream down my face as I grip the sink, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Robert knocks gently but knows better than to enter. I stare at my reflection, at the woman who's been molded into the perfect sacrificial lamb. I splash cold water on my face, dry my eyes, and straighten my shoulders. This is war, but I'll fight it my way with strategy, not emotion, with boundaries, not bridges. In the mirror, I see someone new, emerging, someone with steel in her spine and fire in her eyes. What's the most difficult boundary you've had to set with someone you love? Was it worth it? The next morning, my phone buzzes at 7:43 a.m. I don't recognize the number, but the text contains a photo that makes my stomach lurch. "Congratulations on your big announcement," reads the message from someone named Tara. "I can't wait to celebrate both events next month." I tap the image and freeze. It's a screenshot of my mother's Facebook post from last night. "Thrilled to announce we're celebrating 2 beautiful milestones in one special day. Naomi's wedding and Violet's 5th anniversary. Details coming soon." 47 comments. 93 likes. Robert rolls over, his eyes still heavy with sleep. "Everything okay?" I wordlessly hand him my phone. He sits up immediately, fully awake. "They didn't even ask us," I whisper. "Call your mom," Robert says, his jaw tightening. "Now." Mom answers on the first ring, her voice suspiciously cheerful. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did you see?" "Take it down." My voice comes out steadier than I feel. "What?" "The post, Mom. Take it down. We never agreed to this." She laughs like I've told a particularly amusing joke. "Oh, Naomi, everyone's so excited. Your father's golfing buddies are already planning to attend." It's too late to change anything now. The familiar weight of obligation settles on my chest. Too late. Always too late to stand up for myself. "We'll talk about this later," I manage before hanging up. 3 days later, I'm at Elegance Bridal with Jessica, trying on the simple A-line dress I chose weeks ago. I twist in front of the mirror, admiring how the ivory fabric catches the light. "It's perfect," Jessica says, snapping a photo. "Classic but not boring. Totally you." The bell above the door jingles. I catch the reflection of Violet sweeping into the boutique, designer sunglasses perched on her head, Mom trailing behind her. "Surprise!" Mom calls out, clapping her hands. "We thought we'd join you." Jessica shoots me a look that says, "Stick to the plan." I nod almost imperceptibly. "How unexpected," I say, turning to face them. Violet circles me like a predator, her manicured finger tapping against her chin. "It's a bit plain, isn't it?" Nothing like my Vera Wang. She reaches for a glass of complimentary champagne from a nearby table. "But I suppose it suits you." "Go." The boutique owner smiles tightly. "Would you like to see some veils to complete the look?" Before I can answer, Violet's arm jerks, sending a wave of red liquid across the front of my dress. The champagne glass hits the floor with a crash. "Oh no!" Violet gasps, hand flying to her mouth in mock horror. "I'm so clumsy. Thank goodness you haven't purchased it yet." My fingers curl into fists at my sides as I watch the red stain bloom across the ivory fabric. The boutique owner rushes for club soda, but we all know the dress is ruined. Mom pats my arm. "Don't worry, dear. This was clearly meant to be. We'll find something that complements Violet's anniversary dress." 2 hours later, I meet Robert at his office for lunch, my hands still shaking. "They destroyed my dress, Rob. On purpose." Robert's eyes darken. "That's it. No more playing nice." "Dad called this morning while I was at work," I say. "They've scheduled a walkthrough at Rosewood Manor for tomorrow. They expect us to sign the contract right away." Robert takes my hand across the table. Then we go to Plan B. The next afternoon, we stand in Rosewood Manor's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hang from 30-foot ceilings. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook manicured gardens. It's breathtaking and exactly the kind of extravagant venue I never wanted. "Perfect for your sister's grand entrance," Dad says, clapping the venue manager on the shoulder. "And plenty of room for all 200 guests." 200? I echo. "We agreed on 50. Mom waves dismissively. We couldn't possibly cut the list now. Everyone's already been notified. The venue manager, Mr. Phillips, produces a thick contract. If we could just get signatures and the deposit today, we'll be all set for next month's celebration. Dad pulls out his pen with a flourish. I'll sign first, then Naomi can. Actually, I interrupt, surprising everyone, including myself. My fiancé and I agreed that both our signatures are required on any contract. That's non-negotiable. So, the silence that follows feels electric. What are you talking about? Mom asks, her smile strained. Robert doesn't need to be bothered with these details. It's our wedding, I say quietly. We make decisions together. Violet snorts. Since when do you make decisions at all? I reach into my bag and pull out a folder. Since I discovered these, I place printouts of unauthorized credit card charges on the table. Charges for items I never approved, made with my stored card information. Mom pales. Dad stares at the papers, then at Violet. You told me she agreed to those expenses, he says slowly. Violet's face hardens. She always pays. That's what she does. Something inside me breaks open. Years of silence and accommodation rush out like floodwater. You ruined my college years, I say, my voice surprisingly calm. You're not ruining my wedding day. Mr. Phillips clears his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps I should give you a moment. No need, I say, reaching for the contract. I'd like to review the terms. Dad tries to intercept. Naomi, be reasonable. I've learned that true family respects boundaries. I meet his gaze steadily. Sign if you want to. I'll cover $6,000 for the deposit. The remaining $57,000 is your responsibility. Violet's face contorts. You can't do this, we've told everyone. You've always been the reliable one, the responsible one. I still am, I say. I'm just being responsible to myself for once. Dad looks from me to the contract, then back again. Something shifts in his expression surprise, perhaps even a flicker of respect. He signs his name with less flourish than before. That evening, Jessica calls with news. I found the perfect spot for the real ceremony. Small chapel by the lake, available the weekend before. And Robert's parents offered their lake house for the reception, I tell her, feeling a surprising lightness in my chest. How much was the deposit again? Jessica asks. $6,000. That's a lot of money to walk away from. I think about years of giving in, of putting everyone else first. It's my freedom fee, I say, worth every penny. Later, Robert and I sit cross-legged on our apartment floor, surrounded by plans for our real wedding, the one only our closest friends will attend. I'm proud of you, Robert says, pressing a kiss to my forehead. I pick up a pair of scissors from the coffee table and hold them up to a strand of my hair, the long, straight style my mother always insisted was most flattering. What do you think? I ask. Time for a change? Robert grins. Absolutely. The scissors make a satisfying snip. Dark strands fall to the floor around me. With each cut, I feel lighter. For the first time, I say, watching my reflection change in the window, I'm not just their daughter or Violet's sister. I'm choosing to be me. After my impromptu haircut, I try on the simple white sundress we ordered online. No train, no beading, no cathedral veil. Just clean lines and comfortable fabric. This feels like me, I whisper. Not their version of me. Later, Jessica arrives with a detailed timeline tucked under her arm. Decoy wedding at Rosewood, real wedding at the chapel. I've mapped it down to 15-minute increments. Emily, Robert's sister, brings a legal folder. My friend at the firm confirmed it. Since your parents signed the venue contract, they're legally responsible for the bill. Not you. We work into the night creating our escape plan. Every guest, every detail, every contingency accounted for. I can't believe we're really doing this, I say, feeling the first genuine laugh bubble up inside me in months. Mrs. Sullivan stops by with homemade cookies, her eyes crinkling with wisdom. Sometimes the kindest thing is walking away, she says, squeezing my hand. I wish I'd had your courage 50 years ago. The night before the wedding, Violet appears at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes narrow at my newly short hair. The venue called, she says without preamble. They need final payment confirmation. I smile calmly. Everything's been taken care of. Tomorrow will be unforgettable. Something in my tone makes her pause. She studies my face, searching for the familiar signs of capitulation. Finding none, she leaves with a huff. After she's gone, I pull out a small overnight bag from under the bed and carefully pack the essentials: white sundress, new flats, marriage license. Robert watches from the doorway. Ready? He asks. I zip the bag with finality. More than I've ever been. Have you ever had to create an escape plan from a toxic situation? What gave you the strength to follow through? The next morning, a makeup artist dabs powder across my forehead as I check the time. 9:17 a.m. Perfect. I snap a selfie in the bridal robe Jessica borrowed from her cousin's salon, making sure the generic background reveals nothing about our actual location. Sending the first bait? I tell Robert, who's lounging on the lake house sofa in jeans and a t-shirt, coffee mug in hand. No tuxedo yet. We have hours before our real ceremony. I attach the photo to a group text. Getting started. Running a bit behind but so excited. Then I add 3 bride emojis and a champagne glass. Exactly the kind of overenthusiastic text they'd expect. Mom responds instantly. Everyone's arriving at the venue. Your father is greeting the Hendersons now. They're all there, I tell Robert, the weight of 5 years lifting from my shoulders. 200 guests, and a $63,000 bill. Robert raises his coffee mug. To freedom. My phone buzzes with Violet's text. Remember, I need you here by 11:30 for our sister photos before your ceremony. Wear the pearl earrings I picked. I silence notifications and join my actual friends on the deck, overlooking the tranquil lake. Jessica pours mimosas while Sam and Keith string white lights around the birch trees. Robert's parents arrive with wildflowers from their garden and warm hugs that ask for nothing in return. How are you feeling? Robert's mother asks, squeezing my hand, like I can finally breathe. At 10:45, I send another staged photo. Hair done, makeup next, running about 30 minutes behind schedule. The responses flood in immediately. Mom, people are asking when you'll arrive. What should I tell them? Dad, the minister has another commitment at 3. You need to hurry. Violet, this is so inconsiderate, Naomi. My anniversary celebration is at risk. I switch my phone to Do Not Disturb and slip into my simple lace dress, the one I bought myself, not the beaded monstrosity Violet selected, to complement her anniversary gown. Ready for our real ceremony? Robert asks, handsome in his navy suit. More than you know. Em said. At noon, Jessica returns from her reconnaissance mission at the country club, laughing so hard she can barely speak. You should see them, she gasps. Your mom keeps announcing minor delays. Your dad is sweating through his suit. And Violet, oh my God, Violet is telling everyone it's actually your fault because you insisted on using her hairstylist instead of hiring 2. How many guests left? Robert asks. None yet. They're too fascinated by the train wreck. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash in formal wear. At 12:30, I send one final text. Having a minor zipper emergency. Start without me. Be there in 20 minutes. Then I turn my phone completely off and take Robert's hands beneath the lakeside arbor. 20 cherished friends surround us as Robert's father begins our ceremony. No one checks their watch or texts during our vows. No one demands to be the center of attention. Across town, according to our plan, the venue manager is presenting my parents with a preliminary bill. The contract they signed, the one they pushed so hard to finalize, makes them solely responsible for payment. The $6,000 deposit I contributed was carefully documented as my only financial obligation. By now, Violet has likely realized that her anniversary celebration has become a $63,000 disaster. The carefully selected champagne tower stands untouched. The 5-tier cake with her anniversary topper on the premium tier remains uncut. The guests whisper behind programs, witnessing the family facade crumble. I now pronounce you husband and wife, Robert's father announces, beaming with genuine joy. As Robert kisses me, cheers erupt from people who actually care about our happiness. Later, during our intimate reception dinner, Jessica's phone lights up with a voice message. She puts it on speaker. Jessica? This is Eleanor Thompson. Mom's voice sounds strained, her usual composure shattered. If you know where Naomi is, please tell her this isn't funny anymore. The venue needs the remaining payment tonight. Her father. Her voice breaks. James had to give them his retirement account information. Please have her call us immediately. In the background, We hear Violet shrieking at someone, likely her husband. What do you mean, what did I do? This was Mom and Dad's plan too. Jessica turns off the phone, and Robert raises his glass. To my beautiful wife, who taught her family the most valuable lesson they'll ever learn. I clink my glass against his. Freedom was worth every penny of that $6,000 deposit. What do you think is worse? I ask our friends. Losing $63,000 or losing your dignity? As laughter surrounds us, I already know my answer. The doorbell rings precisely at 10, the morning after our wedding. Robert squeezes my hand as we exchange knowing glances. Right on schedule. Ready? He asks. I nod, straightening the fresh wedding photos we arranged on our coffee table last night. I've been ready for years. When I open the door, Mom stands front and center, eyes red-rimmed and puffy. Dad looms behind her, jaw clenched so tight I can almost hear his teeth grinding. Violet hovers at his shoulder, her face twisted into an expression that can't decide between rage and triumph. How could you do this to us? Mom's voice breaks, tears already streaming down her face. After everything we've done for you? I step aside, gesturing them in without a word. They file past, Mom's familiar perfume, the one she only wears to funerals and confrontations trailing behind her. Dad doesn't bother sitting. You're legally responsible for this bill, Naomi. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it ends now. Tell everyone what kind of person you really are, Violet hisses, jabbing a finger toward me. I already started. Cousin Emma knows you abandoned your own wedding over some childish grudge. I don't flinch. Instead, I walk to our dining table where a leather portfolio sits waiting. Robert stands beside me, his presence a fortress at my back. I expected this visit, I say, my voice steadier than it's ever been when addressing them. I've been preparing for it for a while. One by one, I remove the contents of the portfolio and arrange them on the table. The movement feels ceremonial, like laying out the pieces of a sacred ritual. In many ways, it is. What's all this? Dad asks, impatience edging his voice. I press play on my phone. Violet's voice fills the room. She'll pay for everything, just like she did for my wedding. That's what little sisters are for. Followed by my parents' unmistakable laughter. Their faces pale in perfect unison. Recording conversations is, Dad starts. Perfectly legal in this state with one-party consent. Robert finishes for him. His law degree finally proving useful against my family. I slide bank statements across the table. Here's proof of the $6,000 deposit I agreed to pay, the only payment I ever committed to. Mom reaches for the papers with trembling hands, but the venue manager said, I have the email trail right here. I continue, laying out printed correspondence, where I specifically clarified my limited financial involvement. Note the venue manager's response confirming that the contract holders, you and Dad, are responsible for the balance. Violet snatches one of the papers. This doesn't prove anything. Maybe this will. I pull out screenshots of unauthorized credit card charges, each with forensic timestamps. My credit card, Violet, for your second wedding dress. The one you ordered after spilling wine on mine. You always were so dramatic about money, she scoffs, but her voice wavers. Dad's face has taken on an ashen quality. Naomi, be reasonable. We can't possibly cover $57,000. I extract the final document, a lawyer's letter outlining their liability. The contract is in your names. The venue has your signatures. The remaining $57,000 is your responsibility. Mom collapses onto our couch, mascara creating charcoal rivers down her cheeks. Why would you do this to your own family? I lost $15,000 for Violet's wedding. I say, the words no longer sticking in my throat. I willingly paid $6,000 this time to be free of your manipulation forever. This is revenge, Dad spits, desperation replacing his earlier confidence. No, I correct him. This is the natural consequence of your actions. Violet's husband Thomas, who had been silent by the door, steps forward. So you did the same thing to your sister 5 years ago? His question lands like a stone in still water, creating ripples of uncomfortable silence. That was different, Violet stammers, looking to our parents for support, but something has cracked between them. Mom stares blankly at the coffee table, Dad glares at Violet, and Violet glowers at both of them. Your retirement fund, Mom whispers to Dad. We'll have to use your retirement fund. My retirement fund? His voice rises. This was your idea in the first place. I walk calmly to the door and open it. You can leave now. My new family is coming over to celebrate. They gather their things in defeated silence. As they shuffle toward the exit, I can't resist one final truth. Consider the $63,000 your investment in my freedom. Violet pauses at the threshold, turning back with an expression I've never seen before, something like respect, tangled with resentment and perhaps a flicker of recognition. The door closes with a soft click that echoes with finality. Robert wraps his arms around me as I lean against him, suddenly exhausted and exhilarated all at once. Are you okay? He asks into my hair. Before I can answer, my phone chimes with a text. Jessica and the others are on their way over, bringing champagne and takeout from our favorite restaurant. I'm more than okay, I say, looking at our wedding photos, the real ones, taken at the lake house with people who truly love us. For the first time in my life, I'm free. Was I justified in my actions, or should I have confronted my family directly instead? What would you have done? A year later, the scent of roasting turkey fills our new home as I arrange a centerpiece of crimson and gold chrysanthemums on our dining table. Through the window, November sunlight spills across the hardwood floors we installed ourselves last month. Robert catches my eye from the kitchen doorway and raises his wineglass in a silent toast. 1 year exactly, he says, his smile reaching his eyes. I nod, my chest warm with contentment, rather than the familiar tightness of anxiety. 1 year since we chose ourselves. 1 year since we walked away from the elaborate charade my family had planned and married by the lake instead, surrounded only by people who truly loved us. The wedding photo on our mantel captures that perfect moment, Robert and I laughing as the weather's beautiful colors danced around us, neither of us looking at the camera. Real joy doesn't pose. The doorbell chimes, interrupting my thoughts. Through the peephole, I see Violet standing alone on our porch, her shoulders hunched against the cold in a way I've never seen before. No, Thomas. No dramatic entrance. Just my sister, looking smaller somehow. When I open the door, I stand tall in my own doorway. Unlike that day I overheard them plotting in the dining room, I feel no trembling in my hands, no weakness in my knees. I came to apologize, Violet says, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. Really apologize. I study her face, searching for the familiar manipulation. Instead, I find something new: humility. Dad and Mom had to use their retirement savings to pay the venue. She continues, when I remain silent. It was a reality check for all of us. I gesture toward the living room. Come in. The others will be here soon. She hesitates. Thomas threatened divorce unless I started therapy. He said he couldn't be married to someone who treats family like stepping stones. For a moment, I see the little girl who once held my hand on the first day of kindergarten, before she learned to see me as competition rather than as a sister. How's that going? I ask, genuinely curious. Hard, she admits, but necessary. The front door opens behind us as Jessica arrives carrying a homemade pie, followed by Emily and Robert's parents. The warmth of their greetings fills the entryway. Later, gathered around our table, Robert raises his glass. To chosen family and second chances. The conversation flows easily, untainted by the tension that characterized family gatherings of the past. When Emily's college-aged cousin mentions pressure from her parents to change majors, I share what took me years to learn. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be someone's victim. I tell her. Boundaries aren't walls, they're the foundation of healthy relationships. The words feel natural now, not rehearsed. Last month, I began volunteering at the community center, mentoring young women struggling with family expectations. The scholarship fund we created from money saved on our wedding helped 2 of them start college this fall. As evening approaches, most guests depart with warm hugs and promises to return soon. Only Violet remains, helping clear dishes with careful movements. You're welcome here as my sister, I tell her quietly by the sink, not as the person who tried to ruin my wedding. She nods, accepting the boundary without argument. Mom started to see it too, how she enabled everything. She asked if she could call you sometime. Later, after Violet leaves, Robert presents a small package wrapped in silver paper. Happy anniversary, he whispers. Inside is a shadow box containing our framed $6,000 venue deposit receipt, mounted against burgundy velvet. The inscription reads, "Best investment we ever made in our freedom and future." I trace the glass with my fingertip, smiling at the simple truth of it. Some lessons are expensive, but worth every penny. The keys to my new bungalow are still warm in my palm as I stand on the front porch, breathing in the crisp, Bend, Oregon air. 3 bedrooms. Mine. All mine. The thought still feels foreign, like trying on clothes I'm not sure I deserve. 2 cars pull into my driveway, kicking up dust that sparkles in the afternoon sunlight. My stomach twists as I recognize my parents' Buick, followed by Brooks's oversized SUV. Why are they here? I texted them my new address just an hour ago, expecting congratulatory calls, not this. Car doors slam in quick succession. My mother, Lorraine, emerges first, her silver blonde hair perfectly coiffed despite the 5-hour drive from Portland. My father follows, then Brooks with his wife Maren trailing behind. Their 3 children tumble out last, racing across my newly seeded lawn. Ellis, there you are, Mom calls, waving as if I might have missed the family caravan descending on my quiet street. Behind her, Brooks opens the trunk, revealing suitcases. Actual suitcases. And boxes. Moving boxes. My fingers tighten around the house keys, the metal edges biting into my skin. What's all this? I ask, my voice smaller than I'd like. Mom approaches, eyes darting between me and the modest bungalow behind me. Her smile falters as she takes in the single-story structure with its simple landscaping. Well, we've come to move in, of course. She looks back at the house again, brow furrowing. But, Ellis. She lowers her voice to a stage whisper. Then where do we sleep? The ground seems to shift beneath my feet. 9 years of saving, of skipping vacations and brown bagging lunches, of working weekends and holidays for the overtime, all for this moment. My moment. And somehow, without a single conversation, they've decided it belongs to them. Move in? I repeat. The words taste wrong in my mouth. Don't play dumb, Ellis, Brooks calls, hauling a suitcase from the trunk. We've been planning this for months. Planning this. Last month's family dinner rushes back to me in vivid detail. We'd gathered at my parents' home, the same Sunday ritual we'd maintained since I was a child. I'd mentioned, perhaps too proudly, that I'd finally qualified for a mortgage. Our new home, Mom had said immediately, clapping her hands together. Finally. I'd frowned, confused by the plural, but before I could correct her, Brooks had pulled out his phone. I've been saving listings, he'd said, scrolling through properties that made my stomach clench. Sprawling houses with price tags north of $750,000. This one has enough bedrooms for everyone. I'd said nothing then. A lifetime of experience had taught me that disagreement only led to disappointment, theirs and me. But I'd assumed they would realize their mistake. That surely they couldn't actually believe. This is my home, I say now, my voice steadier than I expect. I bought it for myself. Mom's laugh is quick and dismissive. Don't be ridiculous, Ellis. We've been planning this move for months. She gestures toward my father, who's directing Brooks on where to set down a particularly heavy box. Your father's already given notice at his job. My hands stop trembling. Something shifts inside me, a tectonic plate finding new alignment. I straighten my shoulders. Your plans, not mine. The words hang in the air between us. Mom's smile freezes, then slowly disappears. Dad glances up, sensing the change in atmosphere. What's the holdup? Let's get everything inside before dark. Ellis is being difficult, Brooks says, joining us on the porch. He's always been taller than me, and he uses it now, standing close enough that I have to tilt my chin up to meet his eyes. She's pretending she didn't promise to help us. Promise? I echo. I never. Ellis. Dad's voice has that familiar edge, the one that always preceded punishment when we were children. Your brother has given up his apartment. The children have been enrolled in school here. The weight of it crashes down on me. After years of putting their needs first, of being the responsible one, while Brooks floundered from one failed venture to another, I am once again expected to solve their problems. And if I don't, I'll be labeled the villain in the family story. Brooks places his hand on my shoulder, his fingers pressing just a little too firmly. He lowers his voice, the way he did when we were kids, and he was convincing me to take the blame for something he'd broken. If you don't help your own family, he says, who will? I look at the keys in my hand, at the door behind me that leads to empty rooms waiting for my life to fill them, at the family watching me with expectation in their eyes. And for the first time, I wonder if I have the courage to choose myself. The ping of a new email notification draws my attention away from the unpacked boxes crowding my living room. 3 days since the driveway confrontation, and my family has retreated to Portland in a cold silence that feels both like relief and impending storm. I tap the screen, expecting a message from work, but instead find something from Valley Vista Realty. My thumb hovers over the delete button. I already have my bungalow. Why would I need a realtor? But the subject line freezes my blood. Morgan Family Dream Home. Purchase agreement ready. I open it, scanning quickly until I find the words that punch the air from my lungs. As requested by Lorraine Morgan, on behalf of Ellis Morgan, primary applicant, I've attached the purchase agreement for the Riverside Estates property. The $2,000 hold has been processed using the payment information provided. My legs give out. I sink onto the nearest box, hand pressed against my suddenly racing heart. The room tilts as I scroll through the attached documents, each page revealing a new betrayal. My name. My financial information. Loan paperwork listing me as co-signer on a $768,000 mortgage, a house I've never seen. My mother used my identity. My credit score. Everything I've worked for. When the doorbell rings an hour later, I'm still sitting on that box, surrounded by printouts of emails and documentation I've pulled from my accounts. The browser tabs open on my laptop show a digital trail of my family's presumption. My mother walks in first, not waiting for an invitation, followed by my father and Brooks. They arrange themselves around me, Brooks pacing with the confidence of someone who's never been told no, my father checking his watch every 30 seconds as if my life crisis is inconveniently timed, and my mother rifling through a stack of my mail on the counter. You look awful, Mom says, as if my appearance is the problem. Have you been sleeping? I hold up the realtor's email. You used my name without permission. Her eyes flick to my father, who suddenly finds the ceiling fascinating. Don't be dramatic, Ellis, she says, waving away the evidence of identity fraud, as if I've complained about borrowed lip gloss. I simply initiated the process. You would have been consulted before anything was finalized. Consulted? The word tastes bitter. You put a $2,000 hold using my payment information. That's not consultation, that's theft. Brooks stops pacing. Strong words for family helping family. How exactly were you helping me by trying to make me responsible for a house I can't afford? It's an investment, my father finally speaks, his tone suggesting I'm being unreasonable. The schools there are excellent. We've already enrolled the kids. The casual mention of yet another decision made without me lands like a slap. You enrolled the children in a school district where you don't live, based on a house I never agreed to buy? Well, we had to secure their spots, Mom says, as if this explains everything. The waiting list is quite long. Brooks shrugs, leaning against my kitchen counter. I've already given notice at my job. 2 weeks and I'm officially a Bend resident. Each revelation builds upon the last, constructing a tower of presumption so high I can barely see past it. They've arranged their entire futures around my financial sacrifice, without once asking if I was willing to make it. This stops now, I say, gathering the papers into a neat stack. I'm not buying that house. I'm not co-signing a loan. I'm not funding your relocation. Mom's eyes fill with tears that look rehearsed. If your credit score drops because of this, our scores will fall even further. We'll never qualify for anything decent. Our rental agreement is already terminated, Brooks adds. The landlord has new tenants coming in next month. You're destroying this family, Mom whispers, a tear sliding perfectly down her cheek. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Something snaps inside me. Sacrificed? Let me tell you about sacrifice. I pull out my budget book, the one that's tracked every penny for 9 years. 65% of every paycheck saved, no vacations, no new cars, lunches packed at home, secondhand furniture. 9 years of saying no to everything so I could finally say yes to something that was just for me. My father scoffs. Everyone has to budget, Ellis. Not Brooks, I say, looking directly at my brother. Not when you emptied my college tuition account for his coffee shop that lasted all of 6 months. Brooks has the decency to look away. That was an investment, Mom says defensively. In him, never in me. The room fills with tense silence, broken by the sudden ring of my phone. Noelle's name flashes on the screen, and for the first time in days, I feel something other than dread. I need to take this, I say, standing straighter. We're not finished, Brooks warns. I answer the phone anyway, Noelle's warm hello giving me the courage I've been searching for. I look at my family, these people who claim to love me, while planning to use me and find my voice. Actually, we are finished. The answer is no. As I watched their faces fall when I firmly said, no, I wondered if protecting your own future is worth the pain of disappointing those who raised you. Should I have compromised and found a larger home we could all share? Or was drawing this boundary the only way to finally claim my independence? At the office the next day, the phone rings for the 5th time in an hour. I don't recognize the number, but I know exactly who it is, another distant relative I haven't spoken to in years, suddenly concerned about my abandonment of family. I silence it and set my phone face down on the kitchen counter, where 3 other missed calls from area codes across Oregon blink accusingly. Brooks has been busy. My brother's strategic campaign began yesterday with a carefully worded Facebook post about family crisis and prayers needed. By nightfall, second cousins I barely remember were messaging me about doing the right thing. When Aunt Patty called this morning in tears about that poor boy and his children, I knew Brooks had elevated his game. The landline rings now, my emergency backup that only 5 people have the number to. I answer without thinking. Ellis, it's Grandma Joanne. My stomach clenches. Grandma Joanne, the family matriarch, who sends birthday checks and Christmas packages, even though we see her once every 3 years. I don't understand what's happening, she says, her voice wavering with the particular fragility that appears whenever she wants something. Brooks says you've left them homeless. That's not true, I say, but she continues as if I haven't spoken. I've always included you equally in my will, Ellis, but family takes care of family. The threat hangs between us for 3 heartbeats before I manage to respond. I saved for 9 years to buy this house, Grandma. They assumed I was buying it for them without ever asking me. Well, she says, voice hardening, I never thought you'd be so selfish. After she hangs up, I sink to the kitchen floor and press my forehead against my knees. They're winning. Even from 30 miles away, they're finding ways to make me doubt myself. I close my eyes and the memory surfaces like an unwelcome visitor my senior year of college, opening my tuition account to find it empty. Mom's voice on the phone, casual as if discussing the weather. We had to help Brooks with the coffee shop. You'll figure something out. You always do. The coffee shop that closed 4 months later. The tuition balance that nearly kept me from graduating. The 60-hour weeks I worked while taking a full course load, coming home to my studio apartment at 2 a.m. to eat instant oatmeal because it was 19 cents per packet at the discount store. The night I found my mother's name on the withdrawal slip, I made a promise to myself. Standing in my bathroom, staring at my hollow-eyed reflection, I whispered it aloud. Never again. They will never make me financially vulnerable again. 9 years of that promise. 9 years of brown bag lunches and shared apartments with paper-thin walls. 9 years of saying no to vacations and dinners out and new clothes. 9 years of 65% of every paycheck going straight into savings. My phone buzzes with a text. I expect another relative's name, but it's Marin. I understand why you said no, she's written. I would have done the same. The words glow on the screen, a small flame of validation in the storm. I read them 3 times before setting the phone down, something unfamiliar and warm spreading through my chest. Later that evening, they arrive unannounced at my apartment, Mom, Dad, and Brooks, finding me surrounded by half-packed boxes for my move. Dad stands with his arms crossed while Mom paces, picking up my things and setting them down in different spots as if already rearranging my life. After everything we've done for you, Dad says, his voice low and measured, this is how you repay us? Something shifts inside me. Without a word, I cross to the bookshelf and pull down 3 photo albums I've kept since childhood. I place them on the coffee table and open the first one. My high school graduation, I say, pointing to a photo where I stand alone in cap and gown. You had that fishing trip, remember? I turn the page. College scholarship ceremony. Brooks had a baseball game that day. Page after page I turn, my voice growing steadier with each one. My first art show, the design award ceremony, the promotion celebration. Noelle threw for me that they said was too far to drive. This is what you've done for me, I say finally, closing the album. You've taught me that I'm only valuable when I'm useful to you. My mother's face crumples. Dad looks away. Brooks starts to speak, but the doorbell interrupts him. Noelle stands there with 2 more empty boxes and a roll of packing tape. She takes in the scene with one glance and steps inside, ignoring Brooks's attempt to intercept her. Ready for the next load? Thanks for watching, she asks me, as if my family isn't there at all. Give us a minute, Brooks says, reaching for her arm. Noelle sidesteps him gracefully. Ellis and I have a schedule. The truck's only rented until 7. While my family has spent decades demanding sacrifice, my friends have spent years celebrating my milestones. The contrast stands stark in my living room as Noelle begins efficiently packing my kitchen items. We need to resolve this, my mother insists. I straighten my shoulders. There's nothing to resolve. The house is mine. We could meet tomorrow, I add, surprising myself with how firm my voice sounds. No apology follows, no softening qualification, just the statement, standing on its own. They exchange glances, sensing the shift but misreading it as weakness. At your new place, Brooks says quickly. We can discuss options. I nod, watching them leave with visible relief on their faces. They think I'm reconsidering. They don't know I've already completed the purchase and move, that my furniture was delivered yesterday, that the utilities are in my name alone. That night, I stand in my finished living room, rehearsing the words I've waited 9 years to say. My voice doesn't waver once. The morning sun streams through the windows of my new bungalow, painting golden rectangles across hardwood floors I selected myself. I adjust a vase of fresh sunflowers on the dining table one-place setting, not 5, not 8. My college diploma hangs prominently in the entryway, no longer tucked away in a drawer as it was in my apartment. Each item in this house has been chosen with deliberate care, each placement a quiet declaration. My phone buzzes with a text from Noelle. They on their way? I respond with a simple thumbs-up emoji and take a deep breath. The air smells of lemon polish and fresh paint, my choices. My home. When the doorbell rings, I count to 5 before answering. My mother's smile falters as she steps inside, her eyes darting around the fully furnished living room. Behind her, my father's eyebrows lift in surprise. You've already moved in, Mom says, her voice flat. Brooks pushes past them both, stopping short at the sight of my leather reading chair angled perfectly beneath the window. Where's the space for our stuff? There isn't any, I say, my voice steady. Would you like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot. The confidence in my tone catches them off guard. Brooks looks to our parents, waiting for their cue, but they're still taking in the bookshelves filled with my architecture books, the artwork hanging on walls, the clearly established presence of a single occupant. Ellis, my father begins, but falls silent as his gaze lands on the framed blueprints of my bungalow, my first independent project, now proudly displayed above the fireplace. While Mom inspects my kitchen cabinets, Brooks slips outside. Through the window, I watch him approach my neighbor Harold, who's watering his rose bushes. Brooks gestures animatedly toward my house, his smile wide and convincing. I open the window just enough to hear his voice carry across the yard. Moving in this weekend, Ellis has been so generous to offer us a place to stay while... Harold straightens, water dripping from his suspended watering can. Really? That's not what Ellis told me when she signed the fence permit last week. She was so proud to show me the house plans, said it was her first place all to herself after 9 years of saving, even showed me the single-occupant paperwork from the HOA. Brooks's shoulders stiffen. When he turns, he finds Marin standing behind him, arms crossed, having heard every word. Single-occupant paperwork? She asks, her voice carrying clearly through the open window. You told me Ellis had agreed to everyone moving in. Brooks stammers. She changed her mind, obviously. She's being selfish. Marin's eyes narrow. Like when she changed her mind about lending you $5,000 last year? The money you swore she'd offered, but somehow she had no memory of? I close the window gently and turn back to my mother, who's reorganizing my spice rack. As I watch her examining my kitchen cabinets, calculating how to rearrange them for her needs, I wonder, should I offer a compromise to keep peace? Or would any concession now invite boundary violations forever? The doorbell rings again, saving me from answering my own question. When I open it, Noelle stands there with a large, flat package wrapped in brown paper. Surprise, she announces, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I couldn't wait to give you your housewarming gift. My mother's head snaps up. Housewarming? We weren't told about any party. Just a small gathering next weekend, Noelle says, winking at me. Ellis's friends are so excited to see her new place. We've been hearing about her saving for this for years. The package in Noelle's hand suddenly feels like reinforcement troops arriving at a critical battle moment. She tears away the paper to reveal a doormat with custom lettering. Ellis's home. Perfect for your front porch, she says, her voice carrying throughout the house. Since this is, officially Ellis's home. The silence that follows has weight and substance. Brooks re-enters with Marin behind him, his confident stride now reduced to uncertain shuffling. His eyes dart to the doormat, then to me, calculation replacing certainty. My father clears his throat. Perhaps we should discuss alternative arrangements, he says, the first crack in their unified front. Marin steps forward. What about that apartment complex on Riverside? The one with 3 bedrooms starting at $1,800? Brooks shoots her a betrayed look. That's not the point. Ellis has all this space. For herself, Marin interrupts. She bought it for herself. My mother sits heavily on one of my kitchen stools, finally seeming to understand that the family's assumed plan has completely unraveled. But what about the house we put a hold on? We'll lose our deposit if... We should talk about this in the living room, my father says, attempting to regain control of the situation. Ellis needs to make her final decision clear to everyone. I nod, gesturing toward my carefully arranged living room. Let's do that. As they file in, I catch Noelle's eye. She gives me a subtle thumbs up, and for the first time since they arrived, I feel the tension in my shoulders begin to ease. My home remains my own, its boundaries finally becoming visible to those who never thought to look for them. My mother's fingers work nervously at her pearl necklace as she leans forward on my new sofa. The cushion beneath her barely shows an indentation, as if she's prepared to spring up at any moment. Ellis, be reasonable, she says, her voice honeyed with the familiar tone she's used since I was small. We're not asking you to give us anything, just co-sign the loan. You have no dependents, no real responsibilities. Dad nods, his smile strained beneath his mustache. It's the sensible solution. You keep this. Starter home. He glances around my living room, unable to hide his disappointment at its modest proportions, and we get a place with enough room for everyone. Brooks paces behind them, hands clasped behind his back like he's presenting a business proposal. Family duty isn't something you can just opt out of, Ellis. We've always been there for each other. I notice how carefully they've positioned themselves, my parents on the sofa facing me, Brooks moving behind like a shark circling prey. They've rehearsed this, probably in the rental car on the way over. And if you refuse, Brooks adds, stopping to lock eyes with me, you're effectively cutting yourself off from this family. Is that really what you want? To be alone? The threat hangs in the air between us. For a moment, I feel that familiar tightening in my chest, the panic of potentially losing the only family I've ever known. But then I look around at my home. My home. The sensation passes, replaced by something steadier, stronger. I rise slowly from my armchair and walk to the small secretary desk in the corner. 3 sets of eyes follow me as I retrieve a folder. I've been financially independent since college, I say, returning to stand before them rather than resuming my seat, despite what you all did. What we did. Mom's hand flies to her throat in practiced offense. We supported you. You drained my tuition account for Brooks's coffee shop, I say, my voice calm but firm. Senior year, spring semester. I had to work 2 jobs while finishing my degree. Dad shifts uncomfortably. That was an investment in your brother's future. And what about my future? I open the folder and remove a stack of bank statements, placing them on the coffee table. 9 years of statements. 65% of every paycheck saved. No vacations. Lunch from home every day. No streaming services. No new clothes unless absolutely necessary. I tap my finger on the most recent statement. This is how I afforded this house. Not by having it handed to me. Not by using someone else's credit or name. Brooks scoffs. So, what, you want to medal for being boring? For having no life? I have a life, I reply. One I built myself, piece by piece. I look directly at my mother. You keep saying I'm betraying the family. I'm not betraying anyone. I'm just done betraying myself. The silence that follows feels like the space between lightning and thunder charged with electricity, waiting for the boom. This is ridiculous. Brooks finally snaps. We've given notice at our apartment. The kids are enrolled in school here. Dad's already quit his job in Portland. Your poor planning isn't my emergency, I say, the words feeling foreign but right on my tongue. Mom's eyes narrow. We raised you better than this. I consider her words, turning them over carefully. Maybe you did. You raised me to be responsible, to work hard, to honor my commitments. That's exactly what I'm doing now. I stand and cross to my front door, opening it wide. The evening air rushes in, cool and clarifying. I reach into my pocket and pull out the spare key I'd found in my mother's purse yesterday, the one she'd had made without asking. Walking to the entryway table, I place it there with a soft but deliberate click. You don't get to decide what my success looks like, I say. You don't get to claim what I've earned as communal property. Brooks's face transforms, disbelief giving way to anger as he realizes I'm not going to change my mind. After everything we've done for you. This is my home, I interrupt, speaking the words I've rehearsed countless times. Bought, earned, and chosen by me. Mom stands now, trembling slightly. How can you be so selfish? Family helps family. Yes, they do. I agree. But help isn't the same as sacrifice. Help isn't the same as exploitation. I step aside, the open door a clear invitation to leave. I'm not asking you to leave my life, just my house. One by one they file past me, Dad first, eyes averted, Brooks next, jaw tight with fury, Mom last, lingering as if certain I'll crumble at the final moment. Ellis, she whispers, reaching for my hand. Please. I look at her, really look at her, and for the first time, see her not as the all-powerful matriarch of my childhood, but as a woman who never learned to stand on her own. In that moment, I feel something unexpected, compassion without capitulation. I love you, I tell her, but this answer is still no. When I close the door behind them, I don't slam it in anger. I shut it with quiet finality, then lean my forehead against the cool wood and breathe. The weeks that follow pass in strange silence. Through the neighborhood grapevine, I hear that Brooks and his family have moved into a small rental across town. 2 bedrooms for 5 people, a tight fit, but manageable. A fresh start, whether they wanted one or not. My parents' silence stretches longer. No calls, no texts, no emails. At first, the absence feels like punishment, but gradually it transforms into something else. Space. Room to breathe. To exist without explanation or apology. 34 days after I closed my door on them, my phone buzzes with a text from Marin. When I open it, I find a photo, Brooks painting the living room of their rental, the children helping with rollers, making a mess but laughing. Below it, her message, "Thank you. I think we needed this reset more than we knew." I stare at the image, trying to decipher what it means for them, for me, for whatever comes next. My finger hovers over the reply button, uncertain what to say to this unexpected olive branch from the most unexpected source. The laughter of my friends mingles with the clink of wine glasses in my living room. 3 months into homeownership, and my bungalow finally feels like the sanctuary I envisioned during those 9 years of saving. Noelle raises her glass in another toast, her smile reflecting the warm glow of the vintage floor lamp I restored last weekend. To Ellis, who taught us all that saying no can be the beginning of something beautiful, she declares, I don't blush or deflect the compliment as I once would have. Instead, I lift my own glass, allowing myself to fully inhabit this moment of joy without seeking anyone's approval but my own. My gaze drifts to the wall beside us, where I've created a gallery of personal milestones, my architecture degree, photos from hiking trips I took alone, the certificate from my first professional award. Not a single image is crowded by obligation or overshadowed by someone else's expectations. The light in here is perfect. Remarks my neighbor Janet, an artist in her 70s who's become an unexpected friend. You've created something special. The word created settles around me like a comfortable sweater. For the first time in my life, I'm building something that belongs entirely to me. My phone buzzes against the coffee table just as I'm hanging the final photograph, a simple shot of my front door on closing day. I almost let it go to voicemail when I see my mother's name on the screen, but something compels me to answer. Ellis? Her voice sounds smaller than I remember. I was wondering if I might visit sometime next week. Just me. 3 months ago, I would have immediately rearranged my schedule, grateful for any scrap of attention. The old anxiety flickers briefly, then dissolves. Tuesday evening would work. I reply, my voice steady. I have meetings until 6, so any time after that would be fine. Just for dinner, though I have an early client presentation Wednesday. The silence stretches long enough that I wonder if she's hung up. Tuesday at 6:30 then, she finally says. I don't apologize for the boundaries. I don't explain or justify. The conversation ends with simple confirmation rather than desperate placation. Later that evening, my backyard fills with the people who truly supported me. Marin sits at my patio table, watching her children explore my small garden. She left Brooks last month, a decision that earned her immediate inclusion in what Noelle jokingly calls the Boundary Brigade. Janet brought strawberry shortcake. The neighbor from across the street dropped by with a potted herb garden. We raise our glasses as the sunset paints the sky in broad strokes of orange and purple. To new beginnings, Marin says, and boundaries worth keeping. The following Tuesday arrives with surprising calm. When the doorbell rings precisely at 6:30, I open it to find my mother standing there with a small box of cinnamon cookies, the ones she made when I was little, and achieved something worthy of celebration. She doesn't push past me or immediately criticize my decor choices. Instead, she waits to be invited in, stepping carefully into the space I've created. We sit in silence for several minutes, the weight of everything said and unsaid between us, creating a tangible presence in the room. I move to the kitchen and prepare coffee for two, my movements unhurried. I don't rush to fill the silence or apologize for the modesty of my home. When I return, I place her mug before her with quiet confidence. As I watched my mother take her first sip of coffee in my kitchen, I wondered if some bridges are meant to be rebuilt differently than they first stood. Would you tear down completely and start fresh, or salvage the foundation and redesign the structure? She cradles the mug between her hands, her wedding ring clinking softly against the ceramic. This is a lovely home, Ellis, she says finally. The words sound unpracticed, tentative, perhaps the first genuine compliment she's given me in years. It's a small beginning, but it's enough for now.